120 words per minute. Ready for the dictation? Mr. Speaker Sir, I am very much happy to have come here today to participate in the annual day function of the Birla Vidya Mandiri. This invitation had been extended to me in earlier years also, but for one reason or the other, it was not possible for me to accept it. I feel glad that this year again you have invited me, and in response to your invitation, I could come here. I have listened carefully to the annual report detailing the activities of your school. Let us hope that the boys who pass out from this school will be proficient not only in studies but will be considered as outstanding from the point of view of character and general behavior. I congratulate the teachers and students on the great success they have achieved over the years. My knowledge of the working of the people may not be very adequate. I can, however, say that in recent years I have had personal contact with quite a few of them. In these schools, you do not lay stress only on reading and writing, but seek to accomplish all round development of the student. In addition to the study of the prescribed courses, stress is also laid on sports, discipline, and what is known as character building. We know from our everyday experience that as a result of inadequate contact between the teacher and the taught, not only education suffers but a large number of social problems also arise. It should be considered a self evident truth that education of a child would be successful in proportion to the contact between the teacher and the student. This was the key to the success of residential system of education in ancient India. In those days, the question of expenses to the borne by the parents did not assume the gravity it has done today. The public schools of today are able to devote individual attention to every student on account of their adequate resources and the limited number of students on the rolls. It is not a matter of surprise, therefore, that the schools are popular in the country, so much so that they are not able to admit all the boys who seek admission. This goes to prove the utility and popularity of these schools. With all this, it has also to be accepted that education in public schools is rather expensive. Only rich parents can afford to send their children to them. I do not think that there are any public schools in the country where the average monthly expenditure per child comes to less than rupees 300. That is why a session of the people think that there can be no place for such system of education in a poor country like ours. I cannot say how far this view is logical, but it has to be nevertheless admitted that sanction of grant in aid of these schools by government can be a controversial matter. In respect of education, government's efforts are at the moment considered on the eradication of illiteracy. Of course, efforts are also made for providing additional facilities for technical and university education. Our resources are not adequate even for the essential undertakings. So, providing more and more grants to the public schools in the present circumstances does not seem to be feasible. Everyone agrees that these schools maintain a high standard of education and their students on the whole are better equipped. Even so, the question is how far it could be appropriate that in the face of financial national resources could be utilized for the benefit of only a small section of the people. The government has thought of a way to get over this difficulty. It is by encouraging parents with limited income to send their children to these schools through the institution of liberal scholarships. I also think that the only way of solving this problem is to try to bring down the expenses of these schools and to widen the scope of these schools through grant of scholarships. It is necessary that privately managed public schools also adopt this proposal so that promising but poor children are also be too benefited from the education provided in these schools. On the whole, the working of the public schools was in turn with the conditions prevailing before the country's freedom. Those who received their education in these schools could go in for government jobs with greater chances of success. We must accept the fact that conditions have since changed and are still changing. You can do this by laying greater stress on the general development of boys and the future requirements of the country. Nevertheless, it will be a great thing if the public school education and basic education could be brought closer to each other. It has pleased me to know that students of your institution are encouraged to take active interest in art and handicrafts and that opportunities are provided